I came across this story, and what struck me immediately was how it captures one of those moments where friendship and desire collide in the messiest possible way. Let me share it with you because this is the kind of narrative that reveals how quickly everything can shift. This comes from a young woman, 23 years old, writing from Czechia. She opens by telling us she's pissed. And honestly, that emotion drives every line that follows. The setup is deceptively simple. She has a best friend, Vicky, whom she's known for 7 years. The kind of friendship built on trust, reliability, the assumption that you'll always have each other's backs. Then there's Chris, 28, someone she's known for 2 years. And here's where the tension begins. She has what she describes as a huge crush on him. But he's placed her firmly in the friend zone. He's told her she's crazy attractive, yet he's turned down her attempts to flirt. Notice that contradiction, the compliment that doesn't translate into action. That's the foundation of her frustration. Until yesterday, Vicky and Chris had never met, or so she thought. 6 months earlier, Vicky had told her about meeting a guy at a club. The chemistry was instant, electric. They went back to her place and had what Vicky described as the best sex of her life. But when she woke up the next morning, he was gone. No phone number. No social media. Just a memory of one perfect night. This detail matters more than you might think, because it's about to reshape everything. Yesterday, our narrator decided to throw an early birthday party. She invited people from different circles of her life. Chris arrived on time. Vicky came half an hour later, and the moment Vicky walked into the hall, she spotted him. The recognition was immediate. When they were alone, Vicky told her, he was the guy from 6 months ago. The narrator could only stutter in response that he was her crush. Imagine that moment, the collision of two separate stories that suddenly became one. The awkwardness that followed was palpable. Chris and Vicky said hello, then she avoided him. Our narrator already regretted bringing them together. Vicky pulled her aside and assured her she had no idea who he was, that she'd leave him alone. And for a few hours, everyone seemed to be having a good time. Except our narrator. She was down, because she could see what was happening. Vicky and Chris started talking again, drinking together, dancing. The connection that brought them together 6 months ago was reigniting right in front of her. Later that night, the party moved to an outdoor event near her place. By midnight, she was quite wasted. She admits she doesn't usually drink much, but that night she couldn't stop herself. And in her drunk mind, she concocted a plan. She'd ask Chris to escort her home, splitting him away from Vicky. But it didn't work. 2 of her other friends dragged her out before she could even ask him. She doesn't remember that part well. This is where the story takes a turn. When she woke up the next morning with a massive hangover, all she could think about was Chris and Vicky. She invited everyone from the party back to her place for coffee and drinks. At the same time, she started asking around, talking to 3 people who were there until the end. One friend told her what she feared. Chris and Vicky were making out at the end of the night. They left together. When people started arriving at the after-party, Chris and Vicky showed up at the same time. She tried to act normal to not make a scene, but inside she was boiling. It was obvious they'd had sex. Chris was fond of Vicky, but Vicky was avoiding both of them, avoiding eye contact, avoiding conversation. At least, the narrator notes, Vicky didn't tell him her secret. An hour later, the after-party ended. Since then, Vicky had been avoiding her messages. 2 hours before writing this post, Vicky finally sent a message asking to meet the next day. She wrote that she was sorry. And that's where the narrator sits now, unable to think straight, trying to justify it all. She reminds herself that she and Chris are just friends, not a couple. She can't claim him, but at the same time, she's furious. Furious at herself for throwing the party where they found each other again. Furious because Chris has had dozens of relationships in the 2 years they've known each other, probably more one-night stands than she can count. He's a ladies' man. She's always been jealous, but for some reason, she writes, she cannot stand him being with Vicky. Notice how the tension shifts here. This isn't just about wanting someone she can't have. It's about watching her best friend of 7 years step into a space she thought was hers. It's about the collision of loyalty and desire. The story asks an uncomfortable question. When 2 people you care about find each other, where does that leave you? The craft of this narrative is in what's left unsaid. She doesn't say whether Vicky knew how deep her feelings for Chris ran. She doesn't say whether Chris understood the weight of what happened. She doesn't say what she'll tell Vicky when they meet tomorrow, but you can feel it all simmering beneath the surface. The hurt, the betrayal, the recognition that maybe she never had a claim to begin with. This is the moment where perception changes, because the story isn't really about Chris. It's about the friendship between two women who thought they knew where the boundaries were until those boundaries dissolved in a single night. And that's how a story like this sits with us afterward. It forces us to ask what we owe the people we care about and what happens when those obligations conflict. It reminds us that feelings don't follow logic, and sometimes the people we're angriest at are ourselves. Stories like this honor the complexity of being human, the messy intersections of friendship, desire, and the choices we make when we can't have both. If this story stayed with you, let me know in the comments. Have you ever been caught between wanting someone and protecting a friendship? How did you navigate it? And if you're new here, welcome, subscribe for more stories that explore the moments that shape us. I'll see you in the next one. Title suggestions primary. My best friend slept with my crush, twice, alt 1. She had no idea he was my crush until it was too late, alt 2. The night my best friend and my crush found each other again, alt 3. When your best friend reconnects with your crush at your own party.